There he is.
There he is. Happy Monday, August 13th. It's, 8:34 a.m. Central Standard Time. Welcome to Monday's version of the Crushing Iron Triathlon Podcast.
Fresh off another Crushing Iron Camp, buddy. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm beat.
Beat?
I'm tired, man. I am. These camps, they're great. I love every second of them, but they are exhausting. Which I think they should be. You should be putting a whole lot into them from both you and I's perspective, and then the athletes put a lot into them as well. So it's weird. It's like they're incredibly energizing, but also exhausting all at the same time.
Yeah. I feel
it's not a bad exhausting. It's just you invest a lot of mental, emotional, and physical energy, and that's what you're going to get in return.
Yeah, it's a little bit like race. The end of a race, you gotta regroup and go home and kind of recover, and you're always going to be better after a race. You should be.
Yeah, you should
just like
be.
Camp.
So, yeah, exactly. So, recovering a little bit, and went out and tried to took a semi nap yesterday. It was a solid nap for me, but not maybe high quality with Hayden when we got home from Cracker Barrel yesterday from the athlete send off, and then went out for a run with Allie, and just toast. Pretty tired today, but gonna get back on the horse, catching up on a few things, and checking over all the awesome athlete accomplishments and races from this past weekend as well as the camp. So it was a great weekend all around, and ready to press on and press forward.
Yeah, there was a lot of good feedback from camps. A lot of athletes posted stuff in our closed group on Facebook. Search Crushing Iron Group if you want to get in there, if you're not in there yet, and get involved in the positive energy that carries us all towards our races this fall. And you've got Chattanooga coming up in, what is it, like 12 days?
12, yeah, something like that. I think it's like tomorrow, actually. No, it's rounding the corner quite quickly. I think we're under 50 days now, so
yeah,
something like that, 48, 49.
Yeah, I do have Louisville. I will also be at Wisconsin spectating, so Crushing Iron's going to be getting around in the next couple of months.
We'll be making our way to and from many, many races.
Yeah, we will, man. I got to tell you, man, I was thinking about, because I always have guests here at camp, and, and it's just, we always talked about, last time we did a podcast after camp called Attitude is King, I think, right? And, you sort of, I don't know, it's just such a good feeling, I think, to be around positive people. And so last night I was kind of, winding down, and I happen to, I get on YouTube sometimes and watch some videos of just whatever, and I landed on this guy who's like a monk, and he was talking about this concept of awareness and the mind. So he was talking about concentration and like distraction versus distraction. And he explained it in such a really cool way. He was talking about, like a lot of people say, my mind wanders so much. And he said, well, actually, that's not true. It's your awareness wanders. Your mind is a vast area with, you have different places in your mind, different sections of your mind that kind of reflect happiness or fear or anger or art or whatever the heck it is, and you think about this. He was explaining it in a cool way, and I just wanted to share it because he explained awareness as sort of like a glowing light or orb, and how we, where we kind of focus that attention of that light is where our attitudes go, So your mind is it's an amazing, complicated machine or whatever, but there's different sections of it. And if you focus your awareness in the happiness section or confidence section or whatever it may be, that's, if you practice that more and more, it's easier to get there. So that's what the reason I even bring that up is because I think that's sort of what happens at camp when we have 4 days around positive people, and it's sort of kind of channeling our energy into the right places all the time. And when you get done with camp, of course, and you're kind of back in your normal daily grind of whatever it may be, that's when it gets a little difficult. It's sort of like post-race, it's kind of this, all right, now I'm back in this world where I don't have that assistance of other good attitudes or whatever the case may be, kind of steering my energy. And he was talking about distraction and how good we get at it because that's all we do. I thought that was a really interesting
this
point.
Is very true.
He was saying, technology is not bad. It's just that what we allow technology to do to us as far as distraction. He's like, most of us are awake, 16 hours a day, and a good portion of that time we're practicing how to be distracted. And that's why we get so good at it.
Yeah, I think we've covered that on a podcast too, like our addiction to distraction.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it's real relevant in this sense because I woke up today and I didn't have two guys kind of hanging out making coffee and at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever, and like getting our mind straight right away, and that just sort of carries you through the day. So it's just a real good example of how practice of positive things, and it's just like you get good at what you practice. That's the law of practice.
Yep. Yeah, you you are what you repeatedly do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is especially with training, that is, and if you distract it and find excuses or find ways to kind of almost purposely manipulate a good training flow, i.e., another way to put that would be self-sabotage is another form of distraction. And listen, we're all going to get distracted at times. It's just how you're able to rein yourself in and recognize like the, I guess I don't say your symptoms, but I guess it could be construed that way, and then address them, and then know what it takes to get you back focused and dialed in. But I also think that distractions can be a good thing if it's a different kind of distraction. Like I think a lot of athletes sometimes use camp as a positive distraction from their normal grind of training alone. Like my wife, my husband is supportive, my friends are supportive, but they really kind of just think I'm doing like a Spartan race and with a canoe, so they don't really have any idea what I'm really doing, but they're just kind of like, they're just supportive because they're my friends. But then you come to camp and all of a sudden you've got like 20 strangers that you've never met in your life, and you're of different ages, different male, female, some are married, some are not, some have kids, some don't, some have been in sport for a while, some aren't, some are new, some are very seasoned, and you just kind of get this huge like melting pot of people and abilities. And then I think one of the most valued aspects of camp that's often overrated is underrated, is that the friendships and the connections you make when you go forward kind of help you with the future distractions of getting you back on task, because you meet these like-minded people who just get it,
mm-hmm.
and get it in like an honest way. Because one of the most honestly surprising parts of camp and the athletes that we have is how I think open and raw they are, and I won't say vulnerable, but I think in a way when you're really open and honest, that does show a sense of vulnerability. Is that nobody acts like everything they do is perfect, and they understand that life isn't all about triathlon. It's like a lot of other athletes like to do, and I think it's good to have an opportunity to lean on them post camp when things get rough, or when life brings distractions, or you might find yourself reverting yourself back to like a lower confidence, I can't do this, I'm still doubting myself way. Having a coach is great, but also having other people to just be like, yeah, you know what? I know what that feeling's like. Because all you see on social media is bring it, beat yesterday, I'm going to crush tomorrow, you're going to kill it. And it's like, okay, well, where's my like nice dose of like positive reality.
Yeah.
Okay, you had a crappy day yesterday, so did I, but let's get up and let's move on. And so, yeah, I like that distraction part of camp as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that, and I posted one of the things that I love about camp is because it does get real like that. And we meet all these people through Facebook or in a social media or whatever, and it's sort of this online community. But through camp, we actually meet people that we meet. And then it's just a whole another level. And I think at the beginning, when we started doing camps, and I mean, that was the goal again, right? Is sort of build a community online and then have it flourish into whether it be camps or at races and or meet new people in your area that you probably never would have met. So you have that community. And when I say that community, it's sort of like what you're saying is like that. I always think vulnerable is a positive thing. So people, a lot of people came into camp and they were worried and openly, like I might be too slow or I might hold up the group or do this or that. And it's just not like that, man. It's like we're all, dealing with stuff, and all of a sudden it's kind of a place where you can just come in and be yourself. And yeah, that is the reinforcement of it all, is that, like you said, with other, friends that don't understand or whatever the case may be. And that's what I like about it the most is that, man, when we show up at Chattanooga or Louisville or Wisconsin, there's going to be a lot of people that would have never met that can come out and they feel like, because that's sort of the temperament of the group too. The Facebook group is like, we just had a post this morning. He was talking about how terrible, he felt at Steelhead. And he just like poured it out on the table, and now it's already getting, support and reaction. It's like, hey man, you're not alone. And
yeah.
And to me, that's kind of what this sport's all about, because we're always going in a, everyone that gets into triathlon, most people I think get into it because they want to use it as a vehicle to improve all areas of their life and, be
right.
healthier and things like that. And to me, that's the crux of it. So it can be lonely if you don't have that sort of support and reinforcement from other people going through the same stuff. And it's just a really cool thing when it comes down to meeting people and hanging out at races. And then it doesn't happen like you might meet somebody for a little while, and then the next time it's like, oh man, that was you, and then you become really good friends, and you wind up at a camp or whatever the case is. And I think we all need that in a big way, because of the isolation factor a lot of times in this sport.
That's it. It's the isolation part. And then not just like the isolation part, but training alone is hard and can be unmotivating and emotionally draining at times. And and while social network is great and you can meet people, having met them and connecting with them and having other people to like put things back, I think it just kind of re-energizes your spirit, in a way to keep you. I think one of the obviously, in general, to have motivation and to be focused, you have to have energy. So you have to have sleep. And you got to take care of yourself. But at the same time, I think it's that perspective and kind of like a regrounding of kind of like what your why is and why I do it and what's important and the things that are very, very, very important to me, and that's what keep you going. And because it can be so isolating. I think one of the other aspects that I love about just triathlon in general, whether it's coming to a camp or a group that you work out with, your training buddies or whatever, I think that just feeling that connection and being like, this is why I do it. Because I don't know about you, but I know I can be kind of cynical sometimes, but sometimes at camp, like after the first night, I'm like with everything that goes on in the world and everything that you see and, the fact that news outlets only report like the crappiest things on earth, I think sometimes like it's lost like how many just like really, really good people there are.
For sure, man.
And I think that just from like a just from like a life standpoint, it's just like, man, like you just forget, and then it's just so. I think it just makes you appreciate more everything else about life in general and training, and that it's. I think of all like the dinner conversations we had at like the first night, and even like the first night of camp dinner at my house, and then Cracker Barrel on Sunday, and then the group dinner Saturday night. Like there was a little bit of triathlon talk, but the rest of it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I think it's just really good to remember that there is a lot of good people out there that are kind and compassionate, and that generally do want you to succeed. And so I think, to me, that is the part that I think fills me up the most, is just being around such awesome and amazing people, and having just another way to appreciate and be incredibly thankful that they allow myself and you to be a small part of their journey, and to just have such good people around.
Mm-hmm. I always get people thanking, it's just a great thing that they thank us for just keeping doing what we're doing, and
mm-hmm.
It's like you think about like a college football team, right? They start practice now, and they're together every day, and they're working towards the same goal, and they're as a team, and there's 100 people on the field, and they're going through this grinding, like, rollovers and sled blocking and, line, whatever they do, just like these, stuff normal people wouldn't do, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of like what we do. It's like I've said to myself before when I've been out running in the afternoon in 100-degree weather around that stupid track at the lab, it's like, I'm like, I've said it before to myself. I was like, who does this?
Exactly.
And of course, and who does it is everyone in the sport. And and imagine training, like a football team, 100 guys training individually, and then they show up for the game. How weird that would be. It's like, you've been practicing your thing? Okay, good. We'll all work together and get this done. And it's just that's what it's so unique in the sense that we kind of train for the same thing, but apart from each other. Mm-hmm. So it is a good. It's important, I think, to kind of be back into those circles more often than not, to remind yourself that you're not alone. And it's just it's a cool experience through the camp that really kind of crystallizes it for me. And
I just think that, whether it's you go to a camp or you have a club or a training group or whatever it is, I just think it's really, really important to remember that it's not always about the numbers. Like I had a couple like athletes mention to me, oh yeah, I guess that, like you're training right now, and so I guess this is kind of like, it's hard for you to get in like what you want to get in this week, and with your specific workouts and training and stuff. And I was like, not really. Like, who cares? Like, I think we care too much about the wrong things too often. And oh, but like I got to hit my intervals today, so I can't ride with you, and so I got to do this. And like, is that stuff important? Sure. Is it 100% necessary and life altering if you make it or you miss it? No. Like, I had more fun riding a bike on Saturday with the group that I was in than I've had in a while.
Mm-hmm. Why?
And we just had a freaking blast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we chit-chatted here and there. Nobody, like, we had, a routine that was going. We stayed together, too. It was me, I think, and 5 other people, fairly close in ability, but, obviously there's always going to be stronger and weaker, and we were all dedicated to not leaving each other and doing what was best for, the group. And we went, I think we did close to 80 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked hard. We waited for one another, and it was just fun. We just had a good time, and I think that's, and nobody was like, yeah, but I got to do my workout today.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, like in the scheme of life, and like in all of your training, you're never going to look back on race day and be like, you know what effed me up? It was that Sunday group ride I did where I didn't hit my 2 threshold intervals. If I had done that, I would have got on the podium.
Yeah, right.
No, ain't gonna happen. If you're telling yourself that, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's remembering like why I love to ride my bike, or why this is so fun, or man, if I could do this every weekend, how awesome would this be? Like the highlight of your week. And it's just, I hadn't, honestly, like when I woke up Saturday morning, we met, we rode hard Thursday, we rode 3 hours, Friday, and then we're back in the saddle again and meeting at the trace, ready to roll at 6 a.m. So for what could be up to 4 hours. So it's a lot of work. And I was driving, I was like, man, I'm just tired.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how it goes, and get ready to get on your bike. And then within 20 minutes, I was like, this is awesome. And like you also forget, the pain level or how difficult things are when you're not thinking about just yourself and what you're supposed to do. And I know Steve Magnus talked about this in the podcast we had with him, but it's like taking things as often as you can, take it out of self and make it about other people, and not so much like our self-centered desire to always PR every workout or do what's best for me, or, hit my Strava segment, or, get my new, peak on Training Peaks. It's like, we do this to have fun.
Yeah.
And the people who do that more often are in the sport for longer.
For longer. That's a really good thing.
And that is like the biggest, and I think I talked about this a little bit with, I think Angela Thomas yesterday at Cracker Barrel. Is like, there just so many people get burnt out, and it's the ones that fail to connect and the ones that fail to remember, like this isn't supposed to be an isolating sport. It can be, and to the detriment of so many people, and like their experience with triathlon. It's like, but it's like the connections you make and the people you get to meet and the things you get to do. And it's just, it's so many underrated aspects of the sport that are so like just that don't fit the typical stereotype that triathletes usually get. The stereotype is they don't know how to ride a bike. They're elitist. They only care about themselves. They're selfish. It's all about them, yada, yada, yada. And like, for the most part, at least the ones that we meet, that couldn't be like any farther from the truth.
I agree, man. It's people, it's interesting you're talking about, people who think they got to get their workout in. And look, Saturday, I felt the exact same way as you. It was like, oh man, 4 hours, right? We were a little tired and legs were flat. And so I started riding with some people, and I knew that I wasn't going to kind of go with you guys or whatever. But I sort of eased into the day. And, like how I do that is if I'm riding with people, there's so many ways that you can, quote unquote, create your workout, and a lot of times for me that becomes, maybe going in gear or two higher than I normally would climb or whatever. And I just sort of create mini segments where, it is a workout, and then you can have fun in the middle and whatever. And we just kind of rode, and it just slowly picked up, and we ended up sort of towards the end really kind of bringing it in, and it felt good at the end. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, man.
No, really there's nothing wrong with it.
We put a lot of miles on, and they don't all have to be intervals and it's like prescribed workouts. It's like ride your bike. I love what you said. Is remember why we like to ride, and that's the kind of thing that gets you back out there the next day to do your intervals or the next couple days or whatever. Because
I think if we look back on it, like in big picture wise, the workouts that we remember, most of the time have nothing to do with numbers. They're all about experiences. Mm-hmm. I would put the ride I did on Saturday with my group, that ride we did in the rain, 4 or 5 years ago, and then maybe like another one, I think, and then the one I did, I think, with Wes and Corey, maybe a months ago. But I don't remember any of like my numbers. I just remember I had a fun time when I was with a good group, and that's the stuff that keeps you going. You're not, I don't think anybody is lucky enough to be able to do that every single day. Especially with as busy as everybody is with life and with just everything. It's just hard to schedule. I mean, and you and I both know this because you're not are the same as, unless you and I connect to do like a ride or something together, all of our training is alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like 99.9% of my training is alone. Swims are alone, bikes are alone, runs are alone. Unless I, do like a stroller, take the stroller out with Hayden or push it with him, run him with Allie. Like it's just alone. But I think there's so much that we miss when we become so focused on the numbers or not getting quote unquote our training in.
Mm-hmm.
Like remember the stuff that's going to keep you going.
Yeah.
And it's that connection with people and doing things together that make this sport what it is. And I think we forget it's supposed to be fun, even though we continuously treat it like it's this like to-do checklist of self-worth and productivity and comparison every single day, because none of that to me sounds fun. It's the fun. It's connecting with people and having a good laugh and just generally being grateful and thankful for, man, like this is like how awesome is I get to do this. And then you get done and like the cool thing is like, man, I went almost 80 miles on my bike today and I had fun doing it. That's what makes this so much fun and can be so fulfilling to so many people.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back for a minute into camp and just talk about maybe what kind of things as a coach that you learned at some of the segments, like the first morning we were out at the lake, if you take yourself back there, and what kind of things stick out, I guess, maybe in your mind a little bit about, open water swimming and maybe some fears or some people that might have not been too psyched to do it, or they're not comfortable out there, and some of the drills we were doing. Does anything kind of resonate with you regarding that first day, and maybe what you've learned and what maybe we can pass along as far as some people that overcame some stuff or whatever?
I think and listen, this is so much of our sport in general, and I get it, because a lot of what I encounter with specific athletes, whether it's just ones that I train and coach, whether it's athletes that I come into contact with at swim camp or triathlon camp, everyone is a product of their experiences in life. And everybody has different experiences, from childhood through, adolescence through, middle age, growing up. Like everybody has different experiences, and some are better and some are much worse than something that you yourself are dealing with. And so I think one of the most important things is to try to like get into somebody's head about why they generally think that way in the first place. And then how do you approach them to really get to like the bottom line? I think I've talked about this before in a previous podcast, but when I used to work for Iron Triathlon Fitness, is like, also, you ask them like, why did you come in the gym? Oh, well, I want to lose weight. Okay, well, you've probably always wanted to lose weight, but why did you actually come in today? Mm-hmm. Well, okay, but tell me why. And you have to usually ask like 3 or 4 times, and finally it comes down to like, I saw myself in a picture and hated the way I looked, and that was the last straw. You always have to find like the last straw, or what was the bottom line. Like what you could have picked any day of the week to put your shoes on and walk in the gym, but why today? Because if you don't figure out that, then you can't figure out a way to like work backwards and fix it. But that's also the reason about why a lot of people will succeed, is you have to address everything's at the core and not like at the bottom. And so with most athletes, it's like, why if it's open water, why are you panicking? And then what do you feel when you panic? And basically, how are you seeing this environment? Because we all see things differently anyway. We're all products of our own, reality. You might look at the water and think, oh, this looks perfect. And the person right next to you who looks just the same might think that looks terrifying. Because we all have these like different feelings. And
I know, man. I get those both those like, feelings.
And it's people see the open water differently, and I think the biggest thing is just recognizing truly what it is. And I don't think that all of the like negative publicity that swimming has gotten recently, with the unfortunate accidents and stuff that have happened in some of the races, they definitely don't help. But it's like, tell me what you actually see when you see the water, and tell me what really is different and why it's so different than in the pool. Because when we did pool work on Saturday after we rode the trace, we did these. I took one of the lane lines out, and we did some very, very physical borderline / violent swim starts where I took the lane line out and we put probably 10 to 11 athletes in those two lanes, shoulder to shoulder, with a sprint to the other end, either doing 25s or 50s. And it was mass start hysteria, more mass start hysteria than you'll find in any other race period. And nobody freaked out. Nobody had a panic attack. Everybody actually had fun doing it. It was tiresome, but everybody enjoyed it. And then, but if you would have put them in like a race scenario in open water, that would not have been a good thing. But so much of it is that space in your head of how you approach it. And again, going back to I think 2 or 3 podcasts ago, it's okay you need to acknowledge that those thoughts are going to be there, but you don't have to be willing to participate in the conversation. And I think that's where most athletes start way behind, almost like mentally drowning or treading water, is that they just accept the fact that they're probably going to panic, or it's going to be a horrible experience, or they don't know how they're going to do it, or oh my God, it's not going to be wetsuit legal, I'm never going to finish. And like, can you imagine taking that attitude every single day of training? You wouldn't get anything done. But a lot of athletes have that when they approach specific training sessions, swim, bike, run, but especially swim in open water. I just don't know how I'm going to do it. But they don't talk to themselves that way any other day of the week. Because I think there is that stereotype or that stigma around open water and why people panic. Because it's the same. It's water. It's just lake water versus pool water versus ocean water. And whether it's glass or with chop, it takes you deciding that it's going to be a good swim versus what am I going to do when I panic? Because then, in my opinion, you're already accepting the fact that you're definitely going to panic, and then you're definitely going to stop. And sometimes, it needs to happen. I know you've struggled on and off with open water swim anxiety and stopping and starting and stopping and starting. But I think just like most things, it's how you approach it and what is your understanding and relationship of it. Is it open, like, this is going to be fun, I'm going to have a good time, I'm going to push myself, or is it, I'm just going to be scared and terrified? Because if that's, and listen, you can't ever, and this goes with races in general. I was having a kind of a text conversation about this with another athlete who, like, when you do these long course events and then you hop into a sprint, you sometimes just don't take it seriously. And then you get the God-living crap beat out of you. And you don't perform even close to where you want to. Or you overdo it or you overcook it and it's hot with hills and you end up just absolutely bonking like out of nowhere. And because you didn't mentally prepare for it. You just assumed it was going to go good and you got this. And there's just a certain level, and we kind of drilled this into people's skulls Wednesday night at dinner at my house for pre-camp is the trace a great place to ride? Is it beautiful? Is it challenging? Is it hard? Is it safe? It's all those things. But what happens is people also, when things tend to look easy or tend to look manageable or okay, they lose the respect factor.
Yeah, right.
And they don't, and they fail to mentally prepare when you should always mentally prepare, because you see it so many times in regular sports too. A team, basketball or football, this team like doesn't take the other team lightly, and they're just kind of coming in as like a pushover, and before they knew it, they got punched in the mouth. And you, most oftentimes, you just can't turn that switch back on.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It takes time, and you have to start there. You just flip a switch.
Yeah, because the momentum is already carrying one way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's such a good point. That when you were talking about that, the first thing came to my mind is after I did my first Ironman in Wisconsin, about a month later or whatever, we went down and did a half at the infamous Goose Pond, which is a beautiful swim course. It was a 2-loop course. It was a half, right? I just finished a full. I think I swam maybe once or twice, and I just felt like I was an Ironman swimmer or whatever. I went out there and I got absolutely destroyed because I didn't respect the half distance. And many times, for sure, I've done that with the Olympic, even though I always try to respect the swim because it's such a wild card for me. But, it's like you said something, I don't know if it was on the podcast or whatever before, about how people get so nervous about an open water swim. And you grew up as a swimmer, so you don't feel that, but you always look at it logically and you're like, man, that's probably one of the safer places, because if you don't feel right, there's usually a kayak between 20, 30 feet away from you. Just go over and hang on it or whatever. There's people all over ready to kind of help. And we forget that it's like kind of secured to that degree, whereas if you could be out on the bike somewhere, there may be nobody around for miles. And we don't think about how when you go into a swim that it's like, all right, let's just feel like this is safe and they've got their eye on me or whatever. And whenever I start a long course swim, I just sort of forget that it's a race. Try my best to just look around and take in the atmosphere and just kind of relax. And that's the best solution I've come up with as far as the beginning of a race, because that's when most people go out way too hard, and I purposely try to go as slow as I can in the beginning. Whether that's if you got to jump in the water at the beginning of an Ironman and they haven't been able to warm up, and if that takes a few breaststrokes and dunk your head under the water and just kind of look around, you can do it. It's like, let that day come to you, man. It's like, you've got 12, 15 hours ahead of you. There's no sense in going out hot, especially in the water.
It's so
because
true.
You're always going out way hotter than you think when that cannon goes off. It's so true.
And that's another, that's such a great point. But it's such a good, reminder, listen, that's why you need to, mentally prepare for your own race instead of being sucked into the surrounding and everyone else's race. Because that's what everybody does.
For sure.
But I get it.
You do it in the lane in the pool.
Exactly. You do it on the trail when you're coming up and you're going to pass somebody. I want to make this a final pass. And you get up. It's so you see him in the distance. I'm going to crush this guy. And then you get up over there, and then you realize it's some 78-year-old dude in those classic grade New Balance with the fanny pack doing his long walk for the day. And you're like, man, such a tool, But
I know, man.
Or you're racing people on the treadmill, or you're getting in the pool, and that guy's got fins, I'm gonna beat him, or you're trying to catch this guy on the trace, and you come up and you get out of your saddle and brush past him. There you see his riding with flat pedals and tennis shoes.
Yeah.
But we do it, and the races are just, that multiplied by 500. And I mean, I remember this from my first races, and I'm a swimmer. I've swimming growing up. Swimming is easily my strength, and I'm working hard to make the other ones come up with it. But I remember you look at other people and you're like, God, they look fast. I bet they're going to swim all over me. And then of course you get in the water and half of them can barely take 2 strokes without doing backstroke. But in a race where the energy is going and you have it's we let the environment and our expectations swallow us whole.
100%.
When the most important thing you should be doing is retreating within yourself and going through, what am I going to do today? And it is so hard to do, incredibly hard to do. It takes a lot of self-control and a lot of, I think, practice, of execution. And I think Ohio was probably one of the first times I've ever done it.
You let people go?
Well, I wasn't letting... Exactly. I wasn't letting people go. I was just unconcerned. because with them, I was more concerned with me. And even in my swim, I was like, yeah, I think I got passed by a few at the beginning, and then it's just funny is like I think I actually had like one of the fastest swims compared to the field that I've had in like years. Um, but I was concerned with me and my execution, and everyone else was just kind of it was just kind of like surrounding. It was just kind of like ambient noise.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I like that.
They were there, and I could hear
Like a
them, and I
wave
could see
machine.
them. Yeah, they were there, and I could see them, and I could hear them, but I wasn't going to feel them, and they weren't going to deter or dictate what I was going to do next, or ruining my plan, or ruining this, because what I was going to do today was for me, and execution is always at the forefront of uh, what everyone should do. It should all be about execution.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes that is just it takes practice. It takes and I think it just takes an awareness of it's just hard with everything in life to not get caught up in the moment.
It is.
And let people go, and because and you see the same thing with like fads and hacks. You see all your friends going this one direction, like, oh, I'm doing this. Have you heard about this? I'm on the yogurt, spinach, kale diet, and you should do it. I've already dropped 2 pounds. And you see her like changing their whole entire life, and they got these new shirts, keto yogurt kale for life, and you just you just stay the course.
That's the distraction piece that we were talking about up front. It's all these distractions. I got a great example of how that. Glenn, on when do we run Percy? Friday?
Mm-hmm.
And Glenn was here. He was staying here from Chicago. And he said, hey, man, I want to do your 10:17 run with you today. So we ran this super hilly trail or road, 600 feet or more of elevation and 6 miles, basically. It was really, it's challenging enough on its own. So he was like, I want to try this with you. So basically what the 10:17 is, what I do is anytime I start going faster than a 10-minute pace, because I'm working that zone 2 thing, I start to walk. Mm-hmm. So we started doing it, and we were running, and we noticed that every time we started talking, we would cross that 10-minute barrier, and then every time we saw somebody ahead of us, we would naturally speed up, and we would always hit that. We would cross our threshold, so we have to start walking and let them go. But we did that all day, and he was like, "Man, that's amazing! Every time you see somebody, you just subconsciously pick up your pace, and you let them distract or dictate what's going on in your race." And to your point, I mean, it's very difficult, whether it's on a bike or in the water or running, to stay in your pocket. And it's that it's the I talk about the race energy too. It's like I depend on that to carry me late.
Mm-hmm.
It's you know that if you're running down a packed street and you're walking for a mile up to that, you're going to be able to run past those people. It's just something you can, but it's a weird thing to try to control and not let exterior elements kind of dictate how you really want to do it.
Yep.
And
it's going with it's going with your flow, not with the entire flow of all the traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in letting everything else dictate. And then the ultimate thing is confidence within yourself and your own game plan, and just like an understanding of, I know that if I continue to execute, then I'm going to do well for me. But even if that's just your only thought, more oftentimes than not, you're going to be passing so many people who got caught up doing somebody else's plan later down the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got caught up and I overbiked. Shocker. I got caught up and came out way too hot on the run and ended up having to walk the back half. Because so many times it's not the conditions or the elements or the course or this or that triathletes and athletes in general love to use as kind of like excuses. It's most athletes' unwillingness to follow a plan, and then execute it basically as close as they can to a T, and being confident in that, because they get distracted.
Yeah.
And they want to do this and they want to do that, and then they pay for it. You hear all the time, I went too hard on the bike. How? Like, did you not have a plan? Did you overbike on purpose? Or did you just are you just consistently okay with being miserable and horrible on the run? At some point you're gonna have to figure out or come to a conversation like, hey, it's not all about the bike. It's actually 3 sports: swim, bike, run, and this is how things need to go. And but people, again, and we all think it's going to change. It's like from a race standpoint, it's like we're all willing to touch the hot stove like 9 to 10 times before we finally learn our lesson that we're going to get burned. We just don't listen and pay attention and execute and run our own plan, and just quit running ourselves into the ground hoping that next time all of our risks are going to pay off. When most oftentimes it's your ability to avoid risk taking that's going to actually do the big payoff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all about discipline and staying focused. Dude, I used to run when I run the greenway around my house. If I'd try to have a pace, and I'd have a plan in mind and everything. And if I'd see a group of women running towards me or something, it was I just naturally just pick up the pace. When the next thing I know, I'm looking down and I'm in the 7s. I'm just like, what am I doing, man? So now that this, I've been really forcing myself to
maybe that's why you're still single, man. You're going out by, I'm out of breath, and you can't say a word instead of going by with the old hey ladies conversation.
I feel the table turning, because now I am not afraid to start walking as they come near me.
Exactly,
you're beating up on my pace. Yeah.
Introduce you to the 1017.
Yeah, you may have heard of my ebook in progress, the 1017 method.
Yeah, 1017s.
Yeah, so that's that.
Yeah, it's but listen, it's just one of those things, and it's not. And I can't reiterate this enough. In that, none of this, at least from most people, happens the first time. And it's nothing that Mike and I woke up yesterday and were able to execute perfectly. I still get it wrong a lot of the times. I just, don't. I just know, but your emotions and your adrenaline are your greatest override buttons. They just basically shove everything to the wind. And they're like, your adrenaline and your endorphins, your emotions are basically saying, but you could do it, you got this. And then your body's like, you lie. And then you pay for it later. And so it does. It just takes a calming voice within yourself, and then practice and practice and practice and practice. And ultimately, you got to at least fail at it once or twice to, I think, really kind of learn your lesson. You know what? It wasn't worth it. The risk still wasn't worth it. I thought it would be, and I thought I could do it, but listen, there is no better feeling than racing and thinking you execute it perfectly. And so I think that's, I would just highly encourage everyone the next race you go to be less concerned with the emotions and the noise and the adrenaline, to be most most focused and all of your energy put towards execution, and see how things go differently for you. Yeah. And then the great thing is you can always fine tune execution, because you have and improve it for the good and make it a good, solid, trackable improvement, because you went and you executed, versus going out doing an experiment where you just threw a bunch of shit in a pot and all of a sudden you got something good, and now you're like, okay, well, I don't know if I can ever do that again, because you don't know how you did it. But if you execute, you can look and tweak things and think, all right, this is how I can get incrementally better. And again, kind of back to what we said in the beginning of the podcast, you are what you repeatedly do. So you can either continue to fail and continue to take risks, continue to overdo this and not execute, or you can start executing and then repeatedly execute over and over again and find better ways and new improved ways to execute a different plan better. And then continue to get faster and more fit, and that's how you become better.
That's a good way, buddy. That's a good way to do it. So what else we got going on? We're at crushingiron.com is the website. We have all the info there, all the podcasts, all the coaching information. If you're looking for a coach as you come into your final race of the year, get in the sweet spot, take out the confusion, email c26coach@gmail.com, and Coach Robbie will get back to you with, lickety split right away with a happy.
Yeah, unless it's past 8 p.m. at night, then you can expect.
If it's after 8 o'clock, you can email me at crushingiron@gmail.
That's right.
We have 24-hour coverage.
Available to midnight. That's right.
And again, closed Facebook group is search Crushing Iron Group on Facebook. We have YouTube channel, and videos are coming out. We'll have some camp videos soon. Hopefully that will inspire you to move forward towards a race that you have coming up, or just stay solid on training, whatever the case may be.
Exactly, yep. Just always be building. Yep, doing the next thing. So
getting a little bit better today. And
if you have any interest at all in any of our camps next year, we have 3 camps, May, June, and August. May and June are both sold out with a wait list. August is still available, so if you have any questions or desire to do that camp, I would hop in quickly and get a spot, because I imagine those will sell out fairly quickly.
That's now early August?
Early August. Yep. Yeah,
so it's perfect.
Yeah.
Late season.
It's perfect perfect for pre-Wisconsin, Louisville, Chattanooga, any late season focus. It's perfect timing right there in early August.
Build your confidence and meet some good people and recharge your training, because I think that is a huge part at that time of the year for a lot of people.
Totally agree.
So, other than that, how are you going to get back into it, man? You going back in today or tomorrow?
Oh, I'm back in today, man.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
You're back in.
Gauntlet. Huh? Yeah. I'm going to go out and get a run in, and then do my ride right before I go pick up Hayden.
Oh, okay.
Little ride and run today. Back in the saddle.
Good for you, man. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. I try. Do what I can. But we'll be back to you on Thursday. Hopefully better than ever. Have a good Monday. And we'll see you then.
And don't practice distraction today.
Don't be distracted.
All right, buddy. I'll catch you later, man.
See you, dude.